was sent home early from my Mormon mission. I served in the California Carlsbad mission and later the Newport Beach mission in 2018 to 2019. I had 2 mission presidents. The first mission president was amazing. I loved him. He was an angel. He supported me as much as he possibly could with my mental health struggles. The second one did not, and he sent me home. I have gotten so many comments basically calling me out for saying that missions aren't conducive to good mental health, and I stand by that. You can argue with me and you can say that that's just, my experience, but generally I think the structure of a mission is incredibly difficult for young people, and yes, in some ways it is a positive thing and it is good. It gives them structure, it teaches them discipline, hard work, there's lots of benefits, but there is also so much harm that can be done when you put young people into this pressure cooker and expect them to be exactly obedient, exactly perfect, in order to reap the rewards, which is people to teach or blessings or, baptisms. Now, I am not saying that every leader of every mission is bad. I'm not saying that the church is intending for missions to ruin young people's mental health or to, put them in a spot to struggle. That's not the case. What I am saying is that it makes it really hard when they're feeling that sort of pressure to perform and to be perfect and to do everything they possibly can to be worthy of finding the people who want to be baptized and want to join the church. It makes it almost impossible to feel good enough and to feel like you are doing enough. I, for one, never felt that I was fully doing enough, even though I was giving everything I had during those 15 months that I was there to serving God and being as obedient as I possibly could be. Since we are talking about mental health, I think it's important to mention that missionaries are offered mental health resources. And when I say that they're offered, I don't mean that they are utilized as much as they probably could be or should be. There are therapists that can be available to missionaries or counselors. Typically, and especially in the United States, they are employed through the church. There was a thing at the time that I was a missionary called LDS Family Services. I don't know if the name has changed or if it's a different, structure that they operate under, but at the time, LDS Family Services was where those counselors and therapists came from, and they were employed by the church and basically provided religious-based or LDS-based therapy. If that sounds a little bit questionable, I would agree with you. I think that any mental health professional, any medical professional of any kind, should be focused on their patient and not on any religious ideologies. Just because I think that can be harmful, detrimental, can limit the amount of, benefit and support they can provide to someone, especially in situations where a missionary or any member of the church, because any member of the church can have access to these services, maybe going through a faith crisis, maybe feeling doubts, maybe having questions, and instead of only giving a perspective that supports faith or that encourages for them to turn to the thing that may be harming them, they need more of an unbiased opinion. If you can't tell, I'm not a huge fan of religious-based therapy. I think that it can do more harm than good. And, for some people, maybe that works. For me, I just think it sort of closes people off to opinions that only match one way of thinking. And I think in order for people to be truly successful in therapy, to truly reap, the most benefit from speaking with a mental health professional, I think they need to have one that is completely unbiased and does not have their own opinions or religious views interjected into the sessions. I am speaking from experience. I had therapists for many years from LDS Family Services, even after I was a missionary. So I can honestly say that I benefited so much more from having a therapist who had nothing to do with the church. That didn't mean that they were steering me away from religion. That didn't mean that they were, completely destroying my faith or, pulling me away from spirituality at all. In fact, they probably did the opposite because they knew how much it was important to me. So let's get that out of the way. I don't think that going to a therapist outside of the LDS church will ruin your LDS beliefs. Are the therapists licensed that are provided to missionaries? As far as I'm aware, yes. I would hope that they have to have, licensure or certification of some kind in order to be employed with the church or LDS Family Services or whatever, organization they go through. So as far as I know, yes, I really hope so. I have gotten the question about whether or not missions are free, and I think this does have a lot to do with why there's so much pressure for missionaries, because they are not. So usually it is either the family of the missionary, the parents, the missionary themselves, or, the ward will also pool funds and support a missionary if their family isn't able to. So there are options, but no, missions are not free, and typically they're a few $100s every month to serve mission. I don't know the percentage exactly, but I have been asked by some non-members what the percentage of missionaries who come home early is. And based on the research that I was able to do, the church has never published any kind of statistic, but I found that between 10 and 20 are coming home early. Did any members shame me for coming home early? No. At least not to my face. Maybe they did behind my back. But I was received with a lot of support and love from my home ward. Part of that I do think is because I was very transparent about why I came home. So shortly after, within a few months of being home, I began writing a blog, and I shared a lot of, what I went through on that blog. And so I think that helped to, dispel any rumors or just to eliminate any sort of like gossip about it, because Mormons love to gossip. People can deny it, but they really do. And I think that helped. But I also am very close with a lot of, the ward members around me. And since Utah is so highly concentrated with members, all of my neighbors knew me. Was I able to give a homecoming talk after coming home? Yes. For those who are not aware of what a homecoming talk is, basically in a church meeting on a Sunday, the newly returned missionaries can speak to the whole ward at the pulpit and share their experiences, talk about things they learned, and usually they will bear their testimony at the end. And for those missionaries who learned a new language, they will bear their testimony in that mission language. Because I was technically honorably discharged, it sounds like, the military that way, but they do call it that. Like, I was honorably released from my mission. I was not coming home for any disciplinary reasons, so I finished my mission. I was treated as a regular returned missionary. I came home at 15 months, so I was very close to being done, and I only had 3 months left. So it really wasn't much different from, how I would have been received when I got home. It was just more surprising because of how sudden everything was. I can really talk about this forever. I'm very passionate about it, as you can tell. So if you have any other questions or thoughts, drop them in the comments or my DMs, and I will be happy to make another video to answer your questions.